Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Marissa Kozlov. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and martech. Together, we'll learn how brands can use generative AI to enhance customer engagement, improve personalization, and deliver tailored shopping experiences. So before we get to that, let's meet my guests. Today, joining us from Portland, Oregon, is Jonathan Phillips, Senior Manager of Solutions Engineering at Contentful. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Marissa. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. And from Seattle, just a bit north, we have Justin Hahnemann, Head of
Right.
Worldwide Retail and Consumer Goods, Industry Strategy and Business Development at Amazon Web Services. Hi, Justin.
Hey, what's going on? Great to be here.
Great to have you. Also, I just want to remind our audience that you can use the chat window on the right. Just tell us where you're joining us from today. And also to submit questions for our guests. We will do our best to get to as many as we can during the Q&A in the second part of the show. So please keep those coming. We have a great content planned for you today. JP, over to you.
Thank you very much, Marissa. Again, my name is Jonathan Phillips, or JP for short, and I lead a global strategic solution specialist team at Contentful. I'm excited to share with you today some of the research that we've done with about 820 organizations. This was just done a couple months ago. And this is the trends we're seeing in AI related to customer experience and content. And these are going to be some real world examples. We're going to share some customer success stories and some exciting things that we're hearing here. So at the end of the session, there'll be a 40-page report that you can have access to and download. We're going to go through some of the key data points and sort of aha moments that we pulled out of this to share with you all today. So to kick things off, one of the things that we learned is that there's a lot of things that AI can be used for. So when we go and ask people, what types of topics are you utilizing AI for, we hear everything all across the board here. Writing code came out early, so things that natural translation are good for, things that web technologies are good for, easy to pick up from all the data that AI is trained on. And modeling content is super interesting as well. So Contentful deals with structured content. And a lot of times it's easy to sort of look at patterns that they see out there within other customers and try and find ways to make that content a little easier to model for our customers. But the thing that was like most interesting is that people are using it for all kinds of topics just to research. We call it like curiosity mode, if you will, but 44% of people are using it in all kinds of different ways. This is researching content, just researching something to write copy about. And it's important to note, I think one of the takeaways here is if you're learning about AI, there's no better time than to dig in and start to understand it. Don't be afraid, just be curious, and you'll start to understand how it can be applied to marketing roles, to content creation, and to digital experience platforms. So the second sort of aha moment we had was what marketers are using generative AI for. And so a lot of times, the funny thing here is when we first heard about AI being used in the content production lifecycle, we'd ask our customers, what type of content would you use it for? And the thing that we would hear that they wouldn't use it for, the highest thing that we heard was, we'll never use it for product information. And the funniest thing we heard, well, marketers, I guess that's not true, because if you ask marketers, they're saying that's actually one of the things they would like to use it for. So somebody here probably needs to go between the groups and understand why there's a difference between the business side and the marketing side of the house. But it's being used in all types of different content creation, right? Some things that are probably more powerful, but were less represented in the survey was SEO content. So things that are relatively programmatic, taking existing content, looking for what is best from a search engine optimization standpoint. But then we see those sort of common things, blog posts, creating images and video assets, and then we see coding showing up here again. But it's important to know that like these topics here, these different areas, there are a lot of things that aren't even represented here. These are sort of the common themes that we saw in the generative AI study. And I think that for me, the biggest one that I was like surprised about was really the product descriptions. Technical documentation makes sense. Graphics and charts, we see that pretty common with all of the AI tools. Coding is something that was very common. But if you're looking for an area to dig into that has a lot of value, we actually feel that SEO is one of the areas that has the most upside to invest in from a content standpoint. And so the third aha moment we wanted to take and share with you all is what are people doing with language models, right? Like if you're going to apply those to your businesses today, how advanced is your understanding of that, and how are you utilizing it within your content operations and processes? So, the good thing here is everybody's just getting started, right? But we believe there's a cusp, sort of a wave of Gen AI happening right now. And we do believe very firmly that if you don't start engaging and learning and trying to understand how to apply it to your business, how to apply it to your customer journeys, that you will be behind in your competitors in the landscape of your customer experience and user journeys. So you should start engaging today. Funny, like there's a handful of folks that are not planning to use it for anything today. When we ask and sort of dig in as to why that is, the most common thing we hear is there's uncertainty in the organization. We just don't understand if this is secure. We don't understand if our organization supports us utilizing this technology. And so often it's a lack of clarity or a lack of control and understanding that prevents people from taking those sort of first initial actions. But I think one of the most exciting things here is that almost half of organizations we talked to said they are planning something right now. So if you do wait at this point in time, there is a lot of folks out there that are already investing, and they're starting to see benefits from that, as we'll sort of see in our next section here. So we believe that these things coupled together are sort of waving in this era of opportunity. So if you look back at the early days of the World Wide Web and the 1.0 era, and then as we moved and progressed into the mobile first and the digital era and the social era, these eras were very much content generated by humans, by individuals. The content was sourced. The content had specific data and representation to that. We didn't see a lot of AI. We saw some machine learning and deep learning utilized in content creation processes. It wasn't until this year that we just saw a huge explosion of AI being utilized in content creation operation processes. Everything from some of the ones we outlined as far as creating copy, marketing, content, blog posts, to the less popular ones like SEO and coding and things of that nature. So it's coming, it's here right now, and this is the time to sort of take advantage of that. Our prediction, if you sort of fast forward the clock, a couple years from now, it's not that far off, is that AI is going to reduce the cost and resources to create content, both the creation of the content as well as the processes and business steps that are necessary to get that content to market. And it's going to do this in a much faster, accelerated process, allowing things like personalization and hyper-personalization, automated SEO, and creating experiences that are really engaging and grow and scale with a brand globally. And as we go even further into the future, there's going to be a need to control and to scale all of this content. So with the plethora and explosion of content, it's going to demand that the organization have a strategy, an enterprise strategy for how content is used within their business and how it is used in the customer journey, what the value of content is to end users. And it's going to need to do this quickly and performantly at scale globally for brands. And if you look at what our customers are doing today, we see this as the most interesting lens to try and decide where you should dive in. So there's a lot of hype going on right now. If you follow Gartner and the analyst segments, they say that we're sort of ending this wave of the generative AI hype cycle. We're starting to come to more normalization and a realistic expectation of what can actually be accomplished from a business value perspective with AI. And so we believe taking a look through the lens of our customers, we can start to see the areas that are most beneficial to get value from Gen AI for our customer experiences. One of the most disruptive customers we work with is an organization called Klarna. And they released earlier this year that they're saving roughly $40 million on their implementation of AI from a customer service standpoint. And so this is by leveraging content that is created in Contentful, structured in Contentful, in the process of financial services assistance to help their customers find the content they're looking for faster. So you can think of it as an agent or a support assistant that helps make the customer journey more seamless, more engaging, and more accurate as far as the information that's given to those folks. And they're having a real business impact with this. It's not something that was just theoretically planned that they're going to be working with. This is something that they're leveraging in their customer experiences today. It was trained using a large language model in addition to content within Contentful from a knowledge source. And they're using this for all types of different technologies within the organization. This is just one of the areas that they're investing within AI related to generative AI. They also want to be using it in hyper-personalization campaigns. So creating campaigns that have one-to-one experiences where it's tailored based off of the existing and previous customer journeys that an organization has had with an individual consumer. And so there's a huge amount of power to be untapped in that scenario. That's just one example that we're hearing from our customers. Ruggable is another customer that we love working with. Not only do they have amazing rugs that are machine washable and you can use again and again and always look beautiful, they're friendly with pets. If you have dogs or cats, that's why I love them myself, actually. You can use them and not worry about them getting damaged or getting all kinds of dirt and dander on them. They're amazing in what they're actually doing with AI too. So not just their rug technology, but also their generative AI strategy and approach. So when you go to Ruggable, the first time, if you land on their page from a SEO search or a keyword search, the first thing you will see is something related to that. So in this scenario here, the screenshot we're looking at, I was searching for a dog washable rug or searching for dog friendly rugs. And when I get to the page, the first thing they do is they start personalizing the experience, right? So I'm not getting this generic content, this generic customer experience. I'm getting one that's tailored for me. And that's just one of the simple things they're doing with AI. They're doing some more advanced, exciting things too. So if you actually take a picture of your room, so you can take a picture of your room and send that into Ruggable through the website, it will actually give you a recommendation on what type of rugs would fit best for the color palette of the room, for the types of other furnishings that are in the room. And it's doing this through AI. So automatically looking at the image of your room, your living room, your work office, and trying to make decisions. So it's going to come back with a couple different recommendations on how you can use that in your environment there. So a really neat way to really harness the power of AI to do a lot of comparative analysis and make real recommendations that actually make it easier for you to purchase a product, to find something you're looking for, to get excited about a brand and engage more. And so for Ruggable, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They're looking at going further even with this and creating very singular experiences. So they like to think of this as every experience you would have at the Ruggable site is tailored for you. So you may be a dog lover, but you might be a cat lover too, or you might have both pets, right? And so how do you combine these unique experiences and attributes of consumers and make sure that what they're having is a one-of-a-kind, unique experience with the brand? And so this is just one of the things that they're trying to unlock with the composable content and with generative AI. The last customer I want to talk about here is one of the ones I'm most excited about, not just because they have some great punny generative AI usage, but also because of the brands that they work with. So I know a lot of the folks are interested in retail and CPG, and this company, Kraft Heinz, represents over 200 iconic brands. And so in their generative AI implementation, they saw an increase in web engagement, they saw an increase in conversion, almost 80%, and an increase in customer satisfaction. So these are all the things that can be unlocked when you use it properly, when you use it in the right type of format here. And, Kraft Heinz is very focused on storytelling, right? When you ask their head of digital, who are you competing with? Who are you competing with when your customer journey, your experiences? He doesn't say other brands that you would expect. He says, we're competing with Disney. We're competing with Netflix. We're trying to be an entertainer and an engaging brand just as much as we are trying to, deliver our consumer products to our customers, right? So they're trying to create engaging experiences through storytelling that are fun to interact and react with. One of the ways they're doing this internally is they're making it easier for customers, employees to work with existing content that Kraft Heinz has. So one thing people often forget with generative AI is that you can use it for all types of different usages. Most people focus on public-facing content, public-facing experiences. But what Kraft has done that's unique is they're actually built their own GPT. They call it Kraft GPT. It's a powered large language model similar to OpenAI's ChatGPT that is just for employees, and it helps them find content and information faster, right? So making productivity a first-class citizen in the search of strategic purposes for generative AI usage, right? And the one that you might be more familiar with, which is a fun one to try out too, is called Aioli, and it's AI-oli, but it is an appetizing, pun intended, application of generative AI. And this amazing tool actually allows you to interact with, your food inventory in your house, the brands that Kraft Heinz has, and gives you recommendations around what you could be utilizing the product for. So exciting things are being done right now that are having real impacts on the customer experience for retail and CPG brands. And our message to you is start to get engaged, start learning and trying to understand what use cases that might be most applicable to your organization, and start applying the generative AI to those technologies into those user journeys today. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my segment here. And we will share sort of in the session our usage survey. Again, it's a 40-page survey, has a lot more detail than we shared today on what we're seeing as far as trends in generative AI. And I'd like to hand it over to Justin Hahnemann, head of worldwide CPG and strategy at Amazon, one of our strong partners, just north of me up in Seattle. I guess I have to point this way. You're not north of me on the screen here, to take it over and share a little bit more about retail and CPG generative AI trends. Justin?
Awesome. Thanks, JP. Thanks, everybody. It's great to see you. Yeah, I actually live in Atlanta, although I spend a lot of time here in Seattle, as you can imagine. We host many of our global customers here for briefings and whatnot, and so hence the day today. Just a quick reminder, if you are joining us and have got questions on some of the amazing thought leadership and content that you just saw, you can put that in the chat and we can handle those questions at the end. Or if we don't have time today, just know we'll have those questions and we can get back to you individually and follow up. Same with the content I'm about to show you. The format of this WebEx is a little different. We can't see your questions as they're being posted. We do have Marissa who's looking at those and going to try to curate some of those at the end. But please drop those in the chat. And again, great to see all of you. And please connect with me and JP on LinkedIn if you want to have a broader conversation on these topics. Yeah, I mentioned Amazon. That's where I work. I actually sit within what's called AWS. For those that maybe aren't technical, do not be afraid. We are not going to get too technical or too techie on you today, but you got to get a little technical if you're going to talk AI. And you need to like it. It's okay. It's actually part of what's been so exciting in the last year and a half, close to 2 years now with generative AI. So I'm going to spend some time sharing with you what's real. And what's ideal maybe, or what's not so real yet as it relates to generative AI. It's certainly been the buzzword the last, like I said, 18 to 20 months, and for good reason. And I'll show you some of that. I'm going to share with you some of the examples at Amazon of where AI is coming to life, and then also some examples of how our customers are using generative AI. Okay. So let's dive in. So hopefully, at Amazon, our mission is to be the most customer-centric company. And what's so cool about working here, I've spent time at other major brands in my background, consulting, Coca-Cola and Georgia Pacific and Accenture and others. But what's so amazing at Amazon is our culture really lines up to that mission. And today we're really talking mainly consumer goods. So as you can imagine, we work with the vast majority of CPG brands worldwide. And we help them build and launch brands that consumers love. We help them in innovation around things like price, pack planning, trade promotion management, revenue growth management, the innovation around channels, supply chain, route to market for e-commerce, as well as direct store delivery and kind of physical stores, distributor model and whatnot. So quite a bit that we're involved with. I'll share with you a bit more as we go into just some of the customer examples that we have. But again, we work with the vast majority of retail and consumer goods brands worldwide from an AWS perspective. And for those that may not know AWS, just a quick 101 on cloud. AWS was born in 2006. It's the technology platform on which Amazon.com is built. So if you buy products on Amazon, thank you. Thank you for your business. And just know that all of the tech that's running that is AWS. And in 2006, we saw opportunity to take that and bring it to our customers, and hence cloud was born. So for 6 or 7 years, there's no other cloud provider in the market. And now, of course, you've got everything at Amazon and running on AWS. And then more broadly, many of our customers leveraging it for things like marketing, advertising, e-commerce, SAP, operations, et cetera. So, okay, let's dive in. So the biggest things we're working on in consumer goods right now are on this page. And so when we're meeting, like I mentioned, I'm here in Seattle, like this, we will be diving into a couple of these boxes with the major brand that's in the room next door later today. But today on the WebEx, we're really dialing into this pink box, which Yes, it's generative AI, but it's also kind of traditional AI and machine learning, and I'll define that for you. And the reason this has really become such a hot topic, especially the last 18 months, is because of the growth of some of the tech you see on this page here and the things I mentioned earlier. Also, the accessibility of like cheaper and less expensive data platforms and talent coming out of college and universities that actually know how to program and whatnot, right? And yes, if you're in consumer goods, some of you will probably, I'm guessing if you know e-marketer, you're in consumer or shopper insights, that's probably a space some of you are sitting in, and you see the consumer shifting, right? And you see behaviors changing, and it's not easy to change your business to match that. And so that's why there's been just so much of an interesting focus on this AI space. Now, a little bit of history. AI is not new. So while some of you learned about AI because you heard of something called ChatGPT last year, uh, AI has been around for all the way back to the 50s. And there are probably parts of your company that are already leveraging it. If you have a direct to consumer site and you've got personalization built in, it's leveraging some aspect of machine learning or AI. If you have a contact center or a call center, there's a good likelihood that it's using that platform is using some type of AI. So it's not new. Image analysis, like when I first got to Amazon a couple years ago, I got a question like, can we take images in store of like the shelf and that image, be uploaded and then we know what's out of stock or what pricing is in the store, or what competitive product is sitting next to the store? Absolutely. That's no problem. That's actually done today using traditional AI. And if you're not technical, and even if you are, this is a great way to think about a definition. It's all AI. Okay, so when you're in a meeting and someone's like, well, what do we do about generative AI? It's like, well, just remember, it's kind of all AI. It's just a subset of AI, okay? And you can see some of the different definitions here around AI, machine learning, which is, again, looking for patterns, and then generative AI, which uses models, okay? Again, we're not going to go too technical today. Our goal is just to give you a sense for like some of the real use cases. All right, at Amazon, thank you again for those that shop Amazon. We have AI built into so many parts of our business. So if you shop on .com and you have seen personalization or recommendation engine powered by traditional AI. Many of you probably have not been to one of our fulfillment centers, but there's some really great videos on YouTube and whatnot that show you how our fulfillment centers work. There was a recent interview done by CNBC that has an amazing view of how AI is built into the fulfillment centers of Amazon. It's built into our robots that work there. Alexa, some of you have Alexa devices built in. Some of you, like Marissa, who works in New York, in her building, there's what's called an Amazon Go store. Basically, it's our convenience store concept. It's built in. You can use your app to walk in, and then you pick up your product and just walk out. So kind of part of our DNA. AWS, of course, powering that. If you've ever used live streaming, whether ours or other, powered by AI. By the way, if you didn't know, Amazon has its own live stream platform, amazon.com/live. You should check it out, multitask while we're doing this WebEx. Virtual try-on, like this is powered by AI. This did not just happen with generative AI. You can try on, you'll find this on Amazon, and other retailers that we work with have started building this into their sites from a virtual experience perspective. This whole idea of immersive retail, right? You guys, if you've been around the space, you know immersive has been talked about for a long time, but putting product in 3D images in different places. Search, try it out. Take a picture of the soda that's sitting next to your computer, or I don't know, anything that's sitting around your soap bottle or whatnot. And it's amazing. The search comes back with product on Amazon. And search is certainly an area that's not only been powered by AI, but generative AI. Immersive retail, virtual stores. I know I'm powering through a lot of content here, but I'm trying to give you a sense for, hey, this is not new, and I'll show you what's new in a minute. If you have been to a Go store, you'd recognize what's happening with this guy here. He's walking in with his app, scans, the gate opens. We're using computer vision and sensor fusion to build a virtual cart for you, and then you just walk out, hence the name, just walk out. Amazon One, this is our payment mechanism where you register a credit card with your palm. And what's so cool about it is once you've registered with your palm, first of all, it validates, right, to the credit card. And then you go in, pick up what you want and walk out. It charges your credit card. This has also got so many good use cases in things like stadiums, concessions. Think about the ability, like an airport, if I could just walk in, grab something, walk out. I mean, so powerful. Wherever there's an Amazon One unit, if you're registered, you're set. Alexa, I highlighted this earlier in the slide, but we use Alexa devices in our Amazon Fresh grocery stores. Some of you don't have a Fresh store in your town, some of you do. And if you have been to a Fresh store, you can go and ask Alexa to help you find products in store. And then last, there's one or two more examples here. Retail media, certainly a hot topic the last year or two, powered traditionally by AI. And then if you work with retailers that have stores, they have cameras in those stores, and that camera feed can be turned into data and insights. And that is, again, traditional AI. Whew. But I thought AI was new. Nope. Everything I just showed you is not new. So what has really shined a light, though, on AI is this whole idea of generative AI, right? And this is where we've had so much excitement and interest over the last, like I keep saying 18 months. I tie it back to about March 2023 for those that may be watching this later. But and the reason is because of how fast the uptake was on ChatGPT, right? And so and beyond that, like how quickly other companies launched their own versions of large language models, their own platforms for leveraging what are called large language models or foundation models. And there's a lot of excitement in the space, a lot of potential growth in this space, a lot of potential impact in this space, a lot of investment in this space. And from March until September or October for our team, every day we were having calls with the CEO, the board, the chief marketing officer, the chief supply chain officer, not just IT, about what this is and why they should care. And then starting in about September, we started seeing a lot of our customers testing and trialing and experimenting. And now we've got some really amazing and powerful use cases that surround that. And these are the questions that our customers continue to ask around generative AI. Remember, a subset of the circle I showed you earlier, but things like, hey, what is, the CPG brand sitting in the room next to me, tell me what others are doing with generative AI, maybe we're not thinking about in advertising or with shopper insights. I've got a lot of syndicated data. Is there a use case there? Or I've got, various production facilities and distribution facilities. Like, what about in forecasting? What about in replenishment, inventory visibility? What does it look like there? I'm in sourcing and procurement. Like, what about like going through my RFPs, or not just RFPs, but the responses in my supplier agreements with these models? What about reviews? Yeah, almost everything I just mentioned are areas that we're diving into with customers because this technology is just so powerful. And by the way, not a lot of training is needed to use these models. So if you're in marketing, you're in consumer insights, you're in shopper insights, you're in commercial sales, you should be leaning in on this. Because if not, you will be left behind. And you don't have to have an IT degree or a computer science degree to use this stuff. So that's my biggest challenge for you all, is that if you haven't already leaned in, please do. If you're still sitting here with us on this WebEx, I'm assuming you're probably leaning in. But at Amazon, we're using generative AI to do a number of different things. You see them listed on this page here. So some of you have probably already seen this. If you look at your own Amazon.com account and pull up a product that has thousands or hundreds of reviews, can you imagine trying to, actually, I know companies that do this, they download the reviews, send them to an agency, pay them thousands of dollars to come back with a summary of what those reviews are saying. You can do this in seconds or minutes, and you don't need the agency to do it. You can do this, okay? These text models are excellent. And you could be deploying this on your own D2C site today, okay? And Amazon has done it, and that's enabling a better experience for our customers. Diffuse to choose, a great example here around virtual try-on and being able to take an image and putting different products on that image, right? Personalized size recommendations. Think about fashion, the apparel industry. I was with a whole group earlier this week in New York, and this was like front and center. How can we enable a better premium fashion experience for customers using technology? We launched our own new conversational shopping experience. So no longer do I need to just go to say, Coca-Cola Zero 20 ounce. I can actually say, I could conversationally say, here are the types of beverages I'm looking for, and let it come back with recommendations, okay? Being able to put product in different locations. Some of you already seen the power of images with generative AI. Super powerful, in addition to the text examples I showed earlier. We're using it to help to train the Amazon One units that I showed you earlier. And then, of course, things like the customization of, you see furniture here in this example, but the ability to customize product, powerful, right? And this is something that is an amazing user experience opportunity. We have customers asking us from a B2B perspective for help around advertising images. These people are not real. We set a prompt. This is called a prompt on the very bottom of the screen here. You use a prompt to tell the model what to create in those images. And you see some pretty incredible images here. And images is a space that has progressed very quickly with the power of Gen AI. And to a place today where many of our customers are using it to power the images on their own website or to use it for advertising campaigns. In this example, you see taking a dress off of one model and putting it in a different environment on a different model. And actually, the model adjusts the dress somewhat to make it fit. Okay, guys, you probably use an agency for this. Okay, you probably use an agency for many of the examples around images. And today, you actually have the power in your hands to do some of what you might have typically paid an agency to do. And guess what? It's shifting many different roles, right? It's shifting the role of the agency. It's shifting the role of consultants that are out there, the big SIs that you work with. It's shifting how we at Amazon do business. It's shifting how fill in the blank, Salesforce, SAP, others are doing business. Generative AI has been an unbelievable game changer and will continue to be. And you'll start seeing that more and more in the next couple of weeks and months. And that's how fast this is moving. Planograms, a lot of interesting testing happening here around planograms. And if you guys are in CPG, you know, man, planograms is a very manual process and typically not customized to the stores. There's an opportunity for that to change with generative AI. Same thing with managing out of stocks, which is, again, tied to data. Now, as I wrap up just kind of the what's real section, here are the use cases that our customers have found make sense and are real and are doing this today. Like, you know, if you said, Justin, show it to me, here are some areas where I don't have to show you in the tools, which I could do right now, which I'm not going to because I can't share my screen, but our customers could show them to you. So I mentioned personalization, I mentioned contact center, the ability, if you have a D2C site, to create much better titles, bullets, AdWords, everything about that listing. You should be doing that today. It is available now, and you're missing out if you're not already using those text models for that. Search, again, back to D2C, but also for us, like, I mean, search is only going to become stronger, better, and more personalized for a customer. Coding, I'm guessing there might be a person or two that are in IT watching or engaging today. This is an area I'm not going to spend time on, but is another home run area. The ability to write code, take natural language to code, QA code, tell you what's in code. Oh, you know, this person left the company. They're the only ones that knew the code. Guess what? These models are super smart and they can help you understand what's in the code and then help you make changes to that code. I mean, for IT, game changer. And I mentioned the whole idea of like document and data and the ability to take like a sales spreadsheet or sales information and run models against it. And if you're, you know, using spreadsheets for syndicated data, matching that to point of sale data and whatnot, I mean, these models can at least get you 80–90% of the way there faster than you are with your own pivot tables. And then here's just a good list. Here, if you think about use cases, that's kind of the term that your consultants and others will use is like, hey, let's talk about use cases. Well, here are some of them here. Again, the areas of most impact thus far for Gen AI are in the middle of the page, this whole marketing and digital space. And the others are evolving. It's just they haven't quite got there in terms of their accuracy and capability yet. Last but not least, all of this works only if you have access to data. So all of this is great, but you're not going to be able to leverage it if you've got data sitting in all kinds of different places and it's not integrated or accessible, at least. So something to think about there. And that's where IT comes in. And there's some questions. Your legal team is going to say, well, who owns the image that you created? What about when their models are wrong, right? They're confidently wrong. How do you eliminate bias in like how the models operate? What if we create images that are not on brand or on kind of like on policy, right? There's a lot of questions. They're still being figured out and accepted. And what do you need to share with consumers around it, right? Do you need to tell them you created these images? using generative AI. And then many of the companies we work with are looking to create what's called a responsible AI program or a framework. And so if you want to take this screenshot, you can actually gather quite a bit of information off this, and it changes regularly. But my bottom line as I wrap up is take some time to dive into this. Every one of your organizations most likely has access to models like the that would generate some of the results I showed you earlier. If not, then to ask your technology team how you can get access to those, because you don't need to buy software. You don't have to download something for your laptop. These are accessible. And if you have trouble getting access, just send me a note and I will help research it for you and figure out how we can get you access to some of that technology. So I'll end there. I know I hit a lot of material very quickly. That was kind of my goal. And if you've got questions, again, revert to the chat or just ping myself or JP, and we'll address those. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. That was awesome. I so enjoyed that. That the end came up just so quickly. But thank you so much for sharing all of that great information. JP, I loved how you talked about the AI era and custom Gen AI, and the brand examples were absolutely fantastic. And Justin, I will have to say one of my big takeaways and I learned for the day was that AI has been around since the 50s. I have to admit I had no idea. I would actually put that out to our audience. I would put a plus in the chat if that's also new information to you. That's a great fact. I'll probably share that with others. But great to hear about all the different areas and the ways in which Amazon is using AI and how that's been implemented. So let's get right to the questions. Okay, JP, this one's for you. How will custom language models tailored to specific businesses change the competitive landscape for different industries?
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw in some of the examples here, right, that you can only get so much out of just generative AI itself, right? Like, as Justin just mentioned, any of us can go to OpenAI or Anthropic, Claude's model, any of those, and just type something in and get some beautiful product images, get some beautiful product copy, right? So that is not a differentiator, right? That's just table stakes today. And so when you think about how the competitive landscape is changing, it's about the data, right? How does the data make the AI experience and the generative AI richer, right? And so the organizations that are really sort of evolving this are looking specifically at their customer journeys, at the touch points they have and how technology influences those, and how they can bring customer data in our world, mostly from a digital experience standpoint, how they can bring customer data to bear to make those AI experiences richer. Right. And so, if you look at retail and CPG, Justin just shared a lot of really great examples of what people are doing, but you have to have that data and you have to use that data either to build and train your own models or to make the existing ones more rich, because otherwise, you're only going to get so much value out of open generative AI models.
All right, well, thank you. You also talked about how we're in this era of AI. What are the most common initial use cases you see Gen AI used for?
I mean, so yeah, it's a great question. So the initial use cases are usually pretty simple ones, right? I would encourage you to look through some of the research we did in the report for a little bit more detail, but it's writing blog posts, it's researching product information. Surprisingly, it's also writing product information too, right? But the most common ones we see are creation of content. So first draft, second draft, image generation, translation is actually one I didn't see represented a lot in the thread today, but it's a very common one. Natural language task takes an existing sort of meaning and structure and puts a new language around that communication, right? So translation is another common one, and then things like enforcing brand guidelines, right? Enforcing product sort of adherence to standards, and copy and layout structure. So all of those types of things where you're using it for what the tool is good for, right? Which is repetitive tasks where there's structure and accuracy in the data set, essentially.
Okay, thank you. Good to hear what you're seeing as that initial use case. Our next viewer seems to be in a situation where within their organization, there's these varying levels of how much employees know about Gen AI. So what strategies would you suggest organizations employ to bridge the Gen AI knowledge gap with employees?
I mean, I think, we heard a little bit about this in what Justin said, and I would echo that and also say the same thing, right? Is like you have to engage with the technology, right? Some of these first use cases, as the agencies like to call them, they're not readily apparent, right? And the ones that are readily apparent, guess what? Your competitors are doing those already, right? So what you really need to do is test and explore, right? Like be curious and try and learn ways that you can leverage this technology. So if there's one thing I could say that you can do to be ready as an organization is not worry about it. I imagine everybody here who's here now still is excited about it, right? So like Justin mentioned, you can access these tools right now. You don't need a subscription. You don't need any other software. You can go and start exploring with them. Once you start doing that, you'll start to have ideas about other applications for the technology. And we saw a bunch of really great examples through the customers we shared at Ruggable and Klarna and Kraft Heinz, and Justin shared a huge amount of things that Amazon has been doing for quite some time with AI, and then more recently with generative AI. And I'd say look at those for inspiration, and then start to play around. Right? There's nothing that's going to cost you. Just get excited and start to play around.
Okay, sounds good. We're just going to take a few more. So we have a number of guests who are very curious about this. How can AI users be sure that AI research is correct? It's only as good as the info you put into it.
Yeah, so with the research itself, like you have to test this. We're at a point right now, I think just about every model you work with, if it's a public model, is going to say, this may or may not be accurate, right? And so what we encourage folks to do is, treat it as a resource, right? If I go back to my college days, I didn't write my dissertation and cite only one source. I got a lot of different uh, research points to sort of validate that, right? So there are ways you can test accuracy of models, right? There's a variety of tools that do that. There's technologies that work with Contentful's platform that can check if something is generated for generative content, in particular, Gen AI content. You can test the probability that content is generated. And I think we're moving towards a world too, where there's probably going to be metadata or some type of semantic information that flows with content that has a designation to it, much like we do with SEO categorization and things like that today. So what I could say right now is it is a little bit of the Wild West. So validate it yourself, use it as a source, right? But not the only source, and check other areas too. Now, if you use your own trained data and you're tuning and training the model, that's a completely different story, separate from like large language models. And then that's as good as you make the model with your data team and with your AI team. I don't know, Justin, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I'll add on to that. That just is a great example of like this is not a job elimination tool. It's a job enhancement tool. So, and you still need the human in the loop to say, is this really accurate? Ask better questions. I mean, one thing is great about these tools, you really can't break them, and you can't break like your data set that exists. So it's not going to write back some bad data on your whatever foundational data. So as an individual using these models or asking questions, you learn to ask better questions. And then you start to see where there are gaps or where it came back with an 80% solution, you got to add the final 20%. So I think that's the exciting part is you get better asking questions. So like your analysts that are out there that are starting to use these tools on Excel-based data and whatnot, just know that it won't take long, couple days, couple weeks, and you're going to be asking better questions. You're going to know how to ask a better question, and you're going to start seeing where the models have gaps or where they're not bringing exactly what you're looking for.
All right, those are great points. Thank you both for speaking to that one. JP, what does Gen AI mean for the roles that currently focus on content creation?
Yeah. For the roles that focus on content creation, there'd be, content marketers, editors, copyers, there's a plethora of different roles, marketers. What it means to them essentially is it's another tool, right? It's another tool to create content. It's another source. It's another tool to enrich content too, right? To add more versions or variants of content if you're doing personalization, more translations or languages if you're doing localization or translation services. So it is a tool, right, that can be used as a content creator to enrich that experience. It should not be the only tool you use, but it should be something that you understand and utilize where it fits, right? We covered a handful of use cases that it's really good for. So again, it's a natural language model. If you think about what it was trained on, all of these language models were trained on web data, right? Very structured data utilized for public communication. And so they're really good at things that sort of follow that path or that model. There's certain things it's really not that great at, right? And so use it for the right things. And we covered a handful of those that are good places to start today. Justin, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, we talked earlier about the level of quality and the accuracy of the text models, so that would feed to like what JP was saying around product descriptions and websites and oh my God, translations. Like it's amazing to see how fast like paragraphs of English can be translated to like
So
Portuguese or
fast.
Japanese in like seconds. Like unbelievable. Okay, on the image part, I showed you guys. I mean, like super powerful. Your advertising teams should be using these models today. You could be putting product in all kinds of different backgrounds. I didn't show some of that here because we weren't going to have enough time, but like that's ready now and very, very accurate. The ability to come up with new product ideas. We have several customers using this for product ideation, for innovation, for like, what's the next great running shoe? Let me get 45 different examples based on inputs of consumer preference and whatnot. I mean, ready now. And so it's really challenging your internal creative teams, primarily in marketing, primarily in like creative, that you guys should be using this now and not leaning necessarily on your external agencies and partners, because you can do some of this. You could at least get the process rolling and then leverage those partners for scale or for broader help to really take something and make it bigger.
All right, thank you. And I agree, the translation is
Oh
extremely
my
helpful.
God.
So helpful.
And so
Very
fast.
thankful for that when you're traveling in other markets. We're going to take one more question today. I think you both will have a really good take on this one. How can companies evaluate the ROI of AI investments? JP, you want to start?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the application, right? So if you look at some of the ones that we shared today, those were specific to conversion, right? So one of those was related to a customer experience, part of their customer journey. And so they're measuring conversion. That's the metric of success for that implementation. If you looked at the first Klarna example, that is going to be through the lens of a cost savings associated with efficiencies and the customer sort of post sales support and tech sort of self-help process, right? So I would say it depends, right? There's no one answer to that. It's where are you applying the technology, right? And then you should measure it in the same way that you would measure any other technology that improves digital experience, right? It's not like this is some special new thing. Like Justin mentioned, it's been around for quite some time, right? We have businesses that have goals, and most of them are revenue focused, right? So find the one appropriate to the application that's most important. The ones that I mentioned are probably the ones we see the most. So it's conversion, it's customer satisfaction, it's cost savings and efficiencies, productivity gains, things of that nature, revenue increases with product sales. So those are the ones we see most frequently, but obviously it's applicable to the use case. I don't know, Justin, what's your take on that?
All of what you said, most of it is cost efficiency plays. The use cases I highlighted earlier are really about making things faster, better, more easily accessible. The other thing is like from a true cost of like the technology perspective, you're like when you run those models against a data set, just so you all understand what cloud means, like you're only paying for when you're using those, when you're actually doing something, okay? And so it's not like, again, you don't have to buy some license or software or hardware. I mean, that's no longer. And so the way to really leverage this is in a way that is not expensive to do testing and trialing is powerful. Now, if you scale it over time and you've got massive data sets and using models to enable thousands of field sellers with their app, there's costs to that, but there's also return on that. So that's where the business case comes in.
All right. Seems like those were some great suggestions for how our viewers can measure ROI. So thank you both, JP, Justin. This was so much fun to be with you today. Great content from both of you. And of course, thank you so much for answering all of those questions from our audience. It was so nice to see you.
You too. Thanks, Marissa. It's awesome.
Yeah,
And
thanks for
also,
having us, Marissa.
yeah, absolutely. Well, just hold on one second because I still have some more announcements. Also, to learn more about Contentful's survey results, their asset is available on the resource tab to the right of the video. Also, before we wrap up, I'm just going to take a moment to tell you about some of eMarketer's media channels. You can register for live analyst and tech talk webinars on our events page at emarketer.com/events. Don't forget to tune into Behind the Numbers, which is eMarketer's daily podcast. And finally, please subscribe to our various newsletters. Thank you all for joining us. And thanks again to JP, Justin, the team at Contentful, and our eMarketer studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.